to pull up your stakes, pack up your belongings. Mediocrity is not your home. Good enough is not your destiny. Getting by is not where you belong. You may be there now, but that is not your permanent location. Don't settle for an okay marriage, okay job, okay health, okay life. Yes, we should be content, but you shouldn't be satisfied with less than what you know God put in your heart. When it's taken longer than we thought, or because our health hasn't improved, we didn't get the promotion, our child isn't making good decisions, we get discouraged and quit believing for the fullness of what's in our heart. It's easy to water down what God's promised us. Well, I don't like this job, but at least I'm employed. It's good enough. I was believing for a nice house, but I guess this apartment will do. I was hoping to get well, but I've learned to live with this sickness. I guess I'm at least okay. No, okay is not who you were created to be. Good enough is not what God promised you. The enemy can't stop God's plan for your life, but he'll do his best to convince you to settle along the way. If you're going to become all you were created to be, you have to keep a fire in your spirit. There has to be a holy determination, a resolve that says, I refuse to settle for less than what God's promised me. You have to make up your mind. You're not going to be talked out of it. You're not going to water it down. You're not going to let good enough be good enough. It may be taking longer than you thought. It may be more difficult. The good news is it's not too late. You haven't missed your chance. What God promised you is still on the way. Not a watered down version, not a partial healing, not a make-do promotion, not a good enough marriage. No, exactly what God promised you. What you were excited about before the delays, before the bad breaks, is still en route. God doesn't abort a dream. He doesn't get talked out of what He's promised. He doesn't water down what He's spoken to us. Now, maybe the reason you're not seeing this favor is you've settled. You've accepted that your dream's not going to happen. You'll never get well. You'll never get out of debt. As long as you think that way, it will limit your life. I'm asking you to pull up your stakes, pack up your belongings. Mediocrity is not your home. Good enough is not your destiny. Getting by is not where you belong. You may be there now, but that is not your permanent location. Don't settle for an okay marriage, okay job, okay health, okay life. Yes, we should be content, but you shouldn't be satisfied with less than what you know God put in your heart. But sometimes, instead of stirring our faith up and believing for the best, we move the goalposts back to justify what we're seeing. I can't seem to break this addiction, but if I can learn to manage it, that's good enough. I'll never reach my dreams, but hey, I'm doing as good as my coworker. That's not too bad. No, instead of justifying it, moving that goalpost to fit what you think is going to happen, why don't you leave the goal there and say, God, I don't see how this can work out. I don't see how I can get well, how my family will be restored, how I can reach my dreams. But God, I know you wouldn't have promised it if you weren't going to bring it to pass. Be with her, and we'll call that child our own. No, you don't have to take up for God. You don't have to try to make sure He doesn't look bad in case He doesn't come through. Let me help God make this happen. God doesn't need that kind of help. He flung stars into space. He spoke worlds into existence. He's not at a loss at how to turn your situation around, at how to bring your child back on course, at how to open a new door for your business. Don't reduce it to what makes sense to you. Don't let what you don't have talk you out of what God does have. Get in agreement with Him. God, this seems impossible to me, but I know you can do the impossible. I'm looking at it in the natural, but I know you're a supernatural God. You can take me where I can't go on my own. When the 3 Hebrew teenagers were about to be thrown into a fiery furnace because they wouldn't bow down to the king's golden idol, the guards tied their hands and feet with cords. They were thrown into the furnace bound. They should have instantly been killed. The fire was so hot, when the guards threw them in, the guards lost their lives. But in a little while, the king came to check on them. He said, didn't we throw 3 men in bound? I see 4 men loosed, and one looks like the Son of God. Here's my point. You may feel like your hands are tied. You've done your best, you've worked hard, you prayed, you believe, but it seems like you've reached your limits. It's never going to work out. The good news is God's hands are not tied. He's not limited by what's limiting us. Now, I believe today some cords are being broken. Some chains are coming off. What's restricted you in the past has lost its grip. That addiction that's held you back, the sickness, the financial difficulties, the trouble at work, this is a new day. The fourth man in the fire has shown up. Like these Hebrew teenagers, you're going to come out not bound, but loosed, free, healed, promoted, vindicated with that dream you're believing for. Now start seeing yourself free. See yourself breaking the addictions. See yourself rising to new levels, fulfilling your purpose. Your hands are not tied anymore. God is releasing you into new levels of your destiny. Abraham slept with Sarah's maid and they had a son. Flow in my finances, have more than enough. Or me be healthy, strong, in shape, energetic. That may seem so unlikely. You could easily discount it. God wouldn't have promised it if He wasn't going to bring it to pass. Don't do like Abraham and Sarah. Talk about how impossible it is. They settled for Ishmael while God was waiting to bring Isaac. Maybe that's why it took 25 years. Are you settling for Ishmaels, for good enoughs? Are you watering down what God promised, talking yourself into it? Isaac represents something that you've never seen. Isaac is more than you could imagine, the greatness of God's favor. What would happen if we would say, God, I've seen Ishmael. God, you've been good to me, but I believe Isaac is coming. Lord, thank you for the fullness of my destiny. Thank you for opening doors no man can shut. Thank you for bringing promises to pass that seem impossible. Thoughts will tell you all the reasons why it's not going to happen for you. You're too old. You're too young. You've made too many mistakes. You don't have the talent, the education, the resources. None of that stops our God. One touch of His favor and you'll see Isaac. A friend of mine works in commercial real estate. She had a large piece of property on the market for one of her clients for more than 20 years, right on the main freeway. The owner wasn't in a big hurry to sell it. Over the years, she kept raising the price from several million to 12 million to over 20 million. People told her it would never sell for that amount. She was wasting her time. A few months ago, she brought a large check to the ministry. It was the tithe, the first 10% of the commission from selling the property. She said, Joel, I never went to school for this. I didn't have the training. But when this company called that wanted to buy the property, I met with their attorneys. I was very nice, but I said our price was firm. They said, fine, we'll give you what you're asking. She sold the property. What's interesting is 15 years earlier, she had given a $100 check to a young man in our ministry. She sowed that as a seed and said, God, I want to be able to do more. That dream was planted in her heart. When she sold this property, this new gift was 1,000 times what she had given that young man. God knows how to bring Isaac. He said in Deuteronomy, I will make you 1,000 times more than you are. We hear that and think, there's no way, Joel. Nobody in my company makes that much. Your job is not your source. God is your source. Now, you may have seen Ishmael. You've seen God's goodness, but there are some far out things God has in your future. Goals and dreams that you can't accomplish in the natural. It's going to take the supernatural. The good news is God knows how to do the extraordinary. Things that you can't do on your own, things that will amaze you. But sometimes the reason we settle is life hasn't turned out the way we thought. We've gone through disappointments, unfair things have happened, now we've lost our passion. This is what happened to Abraham's father. His name was Terah. He had 3 sons. One of those sons, a young man named Haran, died at an early age. Terah went through this great disappointment of losing a son. Years later, God told him to leave the place he was living. He would give them the victory. But when they saw how big the people were, when they heard all the negative reports, the scripture says they became too discouraged to believe. Instead of going in and taking the land, they settled in the desert. And yes, God took care of them out there, He provided for their needs. They saw Ishmael, but they never saw Isaac. And I believe many of you are next door to your promised land. You're on the verge of seeing a new level of blessing and favor. The question is, are you going to settle there, or are you going to stir your faith up and say, no, I've come too far to stop now. These giants may be big, but I know my God is bigger. I may have had this sickness a long time, this financial difficulty, this trouble at work, but I know God is still on the throne. I will live and not die. I will prosper and succeed. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I know today, I'm not looking at settlers. I'm looking at overcomers. I'm looking at more than conquerors. I'm looking at victors, not victims. Now, not settling may mean going back to school, getting training so your gifts can come out in new ways. It may mean developing your business plan, meeting with mentors to bring about your goal. Or not settling for you may mean joining